think I might make a. I think I may make a mention of like the Justice League cartoon because boy, after watching that, I think I've been given a major privilege. Man, that show was fucking good.
Of course it was good, especially Unlimited in that final scene with Superman. Because I always was curious as like a Superman fan though, man. Because I was like, Superman fan, man. I just got that. No, I always like that scene where he basically says, I feel like I'm living in a world made of a cardboard box. You know, always careful not to break someone or something. And then when he punched Darkseid through 7 buildings and then knocked him like, what was it, like 5 to 10 feet into the earth, I was like, Superman's really that powerful? It's like, okay, remind me not to piss him off. I mean, that was the sad thing with shows like Justice League Unlimited and Earth's Mightiest Heroes and all that stuff, is that eventually they all die out, and when we talk about it, people are like, what? I don't remember that show. And then when they find it on YouTube, they're like, man, this is what you used to watch? Yeah, this is what I used to watch. But what were you saying about Earth's Mightiest Heroes before the video cut out?
I was talking about how it inspired me to actually go on to Marvel's website and actually read about the digital comics, read the digital Avengers comics, like ranging from the very first ones from the 60s, the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby comics. I'm just sort of working my way up. And I've even started reading some of the 70s and 80s Avengers comics with the artwork by George Perez.
But you know what though?
Goddamn, those are some awesome.
I just had an idea, and it would be cool to see this, but it would also make me laugh. What if in the proposed 2nd season of Earth's Mightiest Heroes they introduce Hercules and Mount Olympus and actually have Hercules and Thor actually fight each other?
Yeah, see? That would be awesome, because Hercules is a huge Avengers character.
I mean, yeah, and plus, you know, and plus to me, it's like I even said with Ultimate Alliance 2, and how they didn't really make Thor a playable character, just like they didn't make Vision a playable character in Ultimate Alliance 1. You can't have the character in there, you can't have a certain character in there and then not have another, because like Vision would have been an awesome playable character in Ultimate Alliance 1. But I can see how he would be a little bit hard to create. But for like Ultimate Alliance 2, to me it just didn't make sense. And maybe a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I think if you have the God of Thunder, you have to have the Lion of Olympus in there as well. It makes sense to me.
Oh, that reminds me of something. Speaking of Activision, this may be a little off topic, but did you hear that Axl Rose actually sued Vision because of the appearance of Flash?
Oh, I was actually about ready to ask you about that, and I was about ready to ask you, how much coke do you think that he snorted up his nose to try to come up with that?
Seriously. What in the fucking hell was he thinking?
See, this is basically what happens. Celebrity, you know, gives permission to use song or whatever. They see that another character, they put this stupid provision in there. Company doesn't follow provision, then the celebrity gets hungry after a couple of years, and then basically wants to try to sue company just to make money. This is basically a vicious cycle in Hollywood that is basically known as what I call cum dropping. Now, I'm not going to explain that detail. Ask you know, a very intelligent but vulgar friend about it. But anyway, yeah, I laughed at that. I thought that was utterly hilarious. It's about as stupid as that whole thing that, oh, there's going to be no more James Bond films. They're just going to be made into video games from now on. Just, what the hell?
That Bloodstone.
But anyway, but no, to try to wrap this up, to wrap this conversation up, because there's a whole bunch of other videos that, there's actually a couple of other videos, or 1 or 2 videos that you and I are going to do after this one, that are going to basically detail a couple of movies that you and I, shall we say, can't help but giggle and laugh at, or movies that are just so bad, or movies that we aren't even going to watch, just the titles alone and even the directors or whoever just crack us up. Now we'll get into that in probably a few minutes or so here, but
and one other thing about the whole superhero thing, I'm actually intending to make a video about a certain Spider-Man story that I think everybody seeing this should read.
And are we going to reference the Maximum Carnage thing that you and I always keep going back to?
Oh yes. Maximum Carnage is an amazing storyline.
And for those of you who don't know, when Monster from Hell here does get his video released, you'll know what I'm alluding to. And it's definitely a moment that, for those of you who do not like Mary Jane Watson, when Monster from Hell explains this part from Maximum Carnage, I think you're going to have a little bit more admiration and respect for her character. I know that I was certainly surprised when I actually looked this up and actually read it. I still kind of, it's almost probably about the second most memorable,
I'm probably not even going to do that good of a job of explaining the book, but that's all the more reason why I think people should go out and get it, because I'm basically just going to make a video talking about it.
Because honestly,
why you should get this book.
But anyway, to try to utilize the last minute or two, going back to the original point of what I was making about like superheroes today, well, there's still time, and plus, just it feels to me like it would be a good closing. But I mean, you and I both grew up reading Batman, Superman. We both, I mean, I know for me, you always talked about characters like Spider-Man and Batman. Me, I grew up on characters like Superman and the X-Men. Now, to those of you who,
Green Arrow.
To those of you who never really, to get into it really fast and to get kind of somewhat a little bit personal, I always look at the X-Men as a major facet of my life, because as someone kind of growing up and kind of dramatically feeling outcasted, like I didn't belong, X-Men was a great inspiration to me, simply because these were people that, much like me, they were very different. They were outcasts, but yet they used their abilities for good, and they rised above, all the stereotypes, all the mean things people said to them. And, that is something that still sticks in my mind. So when I see kids today just kind of going, kids and parents today, as you said, not taking the character seriously, that kind of actually offends me. It disgusts me, because because when I was growing up reading these comics, as I'm sure you did, there was some morality, there was strength to these characters.
Yeah, and the same goes, for, this is going to be kind of out of left field, but Marv Wolfman and George Perez's Teen Titans series, I think, is actually pretty underrated. I actually started reading a couple of those books themselves, and they are damn good. And it's just like, to quote Andrew Cutter 22,